Hello, welcome to part two of my Kanye album discography ranking. It would appear that the video is still going to be a bit jittery, but hopefully, the content will be able to carry through um, the recording well enough. So yeah, we reached we just did number seven in our rankings. So we're now looking at number six, and these ones are a little bit tricky, but I think I think for number six, this is gonna again we've having to include the collaboration albums on here as well. I'm gonna go number six, Kids See Ghosts, the collaboration album with Kid Cudi. Released 1 week after Ye was, so again only 7 tracks, and whilst Ye could have perhaps uh, been a longer project if Kanye had been a bit more committed to what he was exploring. This album definitely could have benefited from a lot more material. That's the only reason why it's kind of not gone higher is just because it is over really quickly. It's about the same length of time. I think it's just slightly longer than Ye, just because some of the songs are a little bit longer. Um, but the chemistry between Kanye and Kid Cudi is just so strong and refreshing on this album, and just compared to a lot of the stuff that Kanye had been putting out, leading up to this. Um, in the Now that the relationship's a bit more fractured. Ironically, since this album was kind of released after their first falling out and reconciliation, um, Cuddy recently mentioned that he was the best thing about Kanye's albums since he started appearing on them. And when you look at all the songs he's been on throughout his appearance on Kanye's album, it's difficult to argue with him. And it's very evident on this project where, Kanye sounds a lot more focused throughout than he does on any of his other projects, and being able to sort of kind of bounce off of Cuddy, who can just like come in anytime it feels like Kanye's getting a bit too far away from the content of the song or whatever. Just having the two of them together really works well, and the music largely harkens back to, if you consider, this was like about 10 years after they first collaborated. So it certainly feels like they're trying to go back to that kind of era of their music, which is very welcome from Kanye. So we begin with Feel the Love, which is a collaboration with Pusha T. Again, considering it's a collaboration with Kanye and Cudi, maybe having guest features on here wasn't too necessary. But Pusha T works well on here. Does a great aggressive intro. Kanye doesn't really appear on this track, apart from just to add some vocal effects to sound half like marching drums, half like gunfire, which is a bit of an annoying way to open the album. But at least after this, he does kind of calm down and get a bit more normal throughout the other tracks. Yassine Bey, FKA Most Def, also appears on the title track Kids See Ghosts, providing the chorus and like an outro verse. And yeah, again, it sounds great with them. Reborn is not like the strongest track on here overall. Just it really takes you takes you back to the feeling of when Cuddy first came around with Man on the Moon and the work that Kanye was doing around that time with his 808s stuff. Yeah, it's just so refreshing overall. I mean, Kanye's verse is fairly consistent on here. Cuddy is it's largely Cuddy's song. As I suppose several of the tracks are, considering Cuddy generally does the chorus work as well as verses on here. But yeah, it's just a very like uplifting, strong track. The longest track, I believe, as well, and it doesn't feel wasted at any point. Even though some of, as we've looked at, some of Kanye's songs have a tendency to have gone a bit too long. This track does not outstay its welcome at all. The Cuddy montage closer, which has some Kurt Cobain sample in there. A great way of ending as well. It's quite a Cuddy heavy track, but Kanye appears on there to help carry the song along and doesn't detract from it particularly. The part Ghost Part 2 Free, that is what it's called. It's free with like 4 E's. It's a strong follow up to the Ghost Town song, which was on Yay. Perhaps not as uplifting and empowering as that track, but certainly a very heavy track anyway. Yeah, it's just overall, 7 tracks just didn't feel enough for this project. It could have easily done with double the amount of songs, and if they were all like this, I don't think it would have hurt the project at all. It's just a shame that it came in that season of Kanye releasing albums that only had 7 tracks, which for him may have worked, but for the Kid Cudi Kanye reunion, there really should have been more on here, because all the tracks that are on here are good to excellent, and the strongest work that either of them, but particularly Kanye, has done for quite a while. It's a shame we probably won't get more projects like this, unless the relationship is mended again. Just a strong, really strong album overall. Should have been bigger, but there's that. So number 5, we go to the other collaboration album with Jay-Z, Watch the Throne, and I was toying with putting this under Kids See Ghosts, but I suppose the advantage of this album is it is more of an album. It's album length. It's 12 tracks on the regular version and 16 on the deluxe version, and again, Kanye and Jay-Z have great chemistry throughout this album. anytime that it feels like Kanye is going overboard, Jay Z's there to balance it out. And I mean, I wouldn't say that Jay Z is a levels above Kanye as a rapper. Um, but certainly, I mean, Kanye's strongest suit has been his production, not his rapping. Even though his rapping is generally very good on here, Jay Z is kind of has the stronger verses overall, has the strongest presence on the album, and but still not so strong that it completely cancels out anything that Kanye contributes to the album. It's just a good mesh between the two of them, and the songs themselves are largely very strong. The intro track, No Church in the Wild, featuring Frank Ocean, very visceral track to start off with again both Jay-Z and Kanye sounding really strong with their verses. Frank Ocean has a great chorus. The bridge with the dream works well enough. Doesn't I used to feel it detracted from the track's life, but actually it does maybe not help it necessarily, but it certainly doesn't hinder the track, and it's kind of a nice epic lead in to Kanye's verse. We get Otis, the sort of lead single for the album. Going back to the more soulful sounds, with Kanye and Jay-Z going back and forth with the verses, and the track itself not being that long, so it's over fairly quickly. But Jay-Z and Kanye managed to make it worth every minute, every second of it. New Day, produced with RZA, which explores fatherhood. Again, Kanye not having any children at that time, so just looking at how he hopes to raise his future children. It's a nice introspective feel for Kanye, and Jay-Z works really well on the track as well. It's a cool, subtle and somewhat soulful sound with the Nina Simone sample. That's My Bitch, featuring Ellie Jackson and Charlie Wilson, and I think there's a few other vocals in there as well, but they're kind of like the major ones. It's a nice, fun track, I'm not gonna lie. We get Murder to Excellence, which is a kind of a split track of like the first bit being the murder track, the second part being the excellence track. The murder bit possibly exploring death rates of young black males in America is a bit more prominent than the second half of it, but it stands up well as a good track overall. Made in America, also featuring Frank Ocean. Why I Love You, the outro on the regular version of the album, featuring Mr. Hudson. Similarly to Lost in the World, a strong, emphatic outro track. So you get the sort of the main single off of the album, Paris, which is a fine song, and it's nice to cover a bit more of a sort of a dubsteppy feel, which we get explored later on in the album as well with "Who Gonna Stop Me." I believe the track, which samples the Flux Pavilion track. Um, and these explorations of that dubsteppy sound is it's cool to have them exploring different sounds on here, so that not every the album as a whole does have quite a varied sort of sound. We don't get anything. It's never like too electronic or too soulful or too boom bap or anything like that. It does cover quite a variety of genres. Um, Paris isn't one of the strongest tracks. I don't feel, even it was a big single at the time. I just feel I mean it's similar to other singles that have been released off Kanye projects before. It's not necessarily one of the strongest singles, but not a bad song particularly. Um, we and the bonus tracks we get the joy, which ends up being the closing track of the deluxe version, produced with Pete Rock. Originally released as one of the Good Friday releases. It's good to see that it managed to find a space on a project somewhere, even if it is just a bonus track, because it is a very nice soulful song, with a bit of a party vibe to it, and kind of a somewhat introspective looking at the family life as well. Um, well, it's certainly one of the stronger tracks overall from the project. Some of the other bonus tracks, Ham, Hard as a Motherfucker, which was initially going to be the lead single, again, isn't that strong a track. It makes it for a good Bragios track, I suppose, but the song itself isn't that great, which is kind of why it ended up being a bonus track. But overall, it's a really good collaboration project. I say it has a strong variety of sounds. Kanye and Jay-Z bounce off each other really well, and the additional producers. It's not just Kanye producing, and the featured vocals all pretty much assist the album well. So it's a strong collaboration project, and one of Kanye's strongest projects overall, I feel. So, number 4, we have 808s and Heartbreak. 808s and Heartbreaks, plural. Anyway, again, infamously, this was quite a departure from Kanye's material at this time. Released in November 2008 as more of an auto-tune led R&B synth poppy kind of singing album. There's not really any rapping on here from Kanye. Some of the verses kind of flow a bit like rap verses, but it's basically Kanye singing throughout it. Young Jeezy and Lil Wayne appear as rap features, but apart from that, there's no real rapping on the album. It's also again a clean project. Apart from one expletive of Wayne which gets censored. So we don't get bogged down with some of Kanye's more regrettable lines. The material on here, it's a lot more emotional than stuff we'd been accustomed to before, and kind of helped usher in the more kind of emotionally driven rap of the years following. Um, and again, the sound itself overall, not using any of the soulful sound that kind of gotten very known for, or even necessarily the more electronic sounds that he was experimenting with on graduation just before this. There's certainly a bit of an electronic feel to the album, but it certainly feels more synth poppy, new wavy, which kind of matches a lot of what was happening in music at that time, where a lot of artists were trying to get into that kind of early '80s sort of sounds. And I mean, it's very refreshing to hear in comparison to a lot of the other hip hop that was happening, R&B that was happening at the time. Very influential overall. Kanye sounds good throughout the album. Whether he necessarily needed to use the auto tune throughout the album, I guess with the overall sound of the album, making his voice sound more computerized and robotic, I guess kind of plays in with the overall aesthetic of it. But even on these tracks, you can hear that Kanye, not a great singer, is good enough to carry songs. His vocals aren't that bad. So yeah, while the auto tune side of it may be a bit gimmicky, it doesn't detract too much from the album. And yeah, kind of having him explore these emotions of of heartbreak, of loss, without going too overboard at any points. In comparison to how he explores emotions later on in his discography. Um, Welcome to Heartbreak with Kid Cudi. Again, a great collaboration with Kid Cudi. Heartless, one of the lead singles from the album. The verses are kind of flow like rap verses, even though they're basically sung. And the auto is not too heavy for the verses. So it kind of works as one of the stronger tracks from the album. Paranoid with Mr. Hudson and Kid Cudi as well in the background. Is very sort of upbeat, almost dancey track, and though like the content itself is looking at quite a sort of looking at the kind of a bit of a darker side of relationship of how people view people in a relationship, and how much to take that into content of what your relationship and letting it affect you. Mr. Hudson, sounds really good with the chorus. Kanye has a bit more of a rapid flow with his line, so again, sounds a bit more of a rap than an R&B verse. And yeah, I think it's just the nice funky outro with the chorus coming in and out at times. I really enjoy Streetlights, which has quite a mournful sound to it, and a very sort of simple verse and repeated chorus. Could have easily made for a longer song, but for what it is, it works really well. Uh, Same with Cold as Winter, which sees Kanye kind of repeating his lines with audio effects, which don't ruin the song particularly. They do, maybe they don't necessarily add too much to the emphasis of the track, but it does kind of give it a bit more of a melancholic feel. I certainly doesn't detract from the melancholic feel anyway of Kanye again exploring loss, uh, kind of looking at it in the way of the loss of relationship, but possibly also being influenced by the loss of his mother, which heavily influenced the album as well. Um, there's nothing on the album that's bad, particularly, though some songs are I feel stronger than others. Um, Overall, it's a very strong project, and it would have been nice to see Kanye explore this a bit further in other projects, maybe as more of a rap project than a singing project. But for what it is, and again, it's a nice short project. Sonically, really works, and the the exploration of the themes holds up and is consistent. So yeah, really really strong classic album, I feel. Number three, we're gonna go College Dropouts, the debut album, uh, February 2004. Was initially going to be released the previous year. Got delayed a few times due to songs being leaked. So this version of the album is actually considerably different to what we would have gotten. Because considering the songs on here and some of the songs which didn't make this album, I think this is probably the best version of the album that we got. It felt like Kanye had he got a bit more time to work on the album and make it sound great, which is good because I mean for the album overall, while it was a great album, cool to have the what had kind of been established as the Kanye sounds of the sped up soul samples playing throughout the album, which kind of popularized at that time. Um, there's still a bit of a feeling of Kanye trying to find himself in the album, not so much that again it makes the album feel incomplete or anything like that, and it's certainly again there's a very strong album throughout, some very very strong songs on there. It's certainly points in of Kanye's persona which is trying to explore and work out which works, it feels like there's sometimes where he's experimenting whether to be conscious, to be funny, to be self-aware, to be more of a populist mainstream punchline rapper of that time, things like that, and all of those sides of him do work reasonably well on the album. Um, and the college feel to the album, it may be a bit gimmicky at times, but Kanye pulls it off well, and it kind of helps give the album overall scope, uh, overall feel to it. So you uh, strong album overall. Um, quite a long project, all things considered. Um, Nothing particularly takes away from the album. People have said that the the new workout, Kanye's new workout plan is the weakest song of the album. It's certainly not the strongest track on the album. I think School Spirit is probably a little bit weaker. Um, but apart from those songs, which again aren't bad, they're just not necessarily as strong as a lot of the other tracks. Not when it's just a bit unfortunate when you've got tracks like All Falls Down, which is an absolute classic track, probably Kanye at his best sounding. The Selena Johnson chorus, is so strong on here. The video for it is like Kanye's strongest video ever. Just exploring his self-conscious nature without taking it too far and dragging the track down at all. The Never Let Me Down with Jay-Z and Jay Ivy, a very strong epic track. Jay-Z has two verses on the album, on the track, presumably because it was going to be Jay-Z's song originally. It was going to be on Blueprint 2, or what ended up being the Black Album, but ended up on here. And it helps the album to around that kind of midway. It starts getting to that midway point. It helps really take the album up a lot. Jay Ivy has some very clever lines throughout there, and in more of a sort of spoken word way. And Kanye has a very strong epic verse, exploring systematic racism and his relationship with his girlfriend at that time, whose father had passed away. Just really, really powerful song. Spaceship with GLC and Consequence, looking at their struggles and before becoming, selling up. Well, in Kanye's case, big major selling artist. Well, sort of becoming a big selling artist at that time. Obviously, he hadn't necessarily made too much as a rapper at that point, but as a producer, he was being quite big. And GLC and Consequence, and maybe not necessarily being on the same level, but exploring, there's struggles while making it into the rap game. Looking at the menial jobs that they had to do to just to get through, and and wait to get recognised. Jesus Walks, obviously Kanye exploring faith, again, not in a converty way, just in actually quite a kind of anti-gospel way, even though it's got a very strong gospel chorus. It just kind of plays out very much like a rap song, exploring drug dealing and prostitution. So again, as as someone who doesn't necessarily, doesn't believe in God at all, it's not. I don't find it an offensive song particularly. It's still a very powerful song. We Don't Care is a nice intro song after the intro skit, which works well, which then builds into the graduation day interlude leading into All Falls Down. I think that's first sort of set of tracks with the skits and interludes between them all work well and bleed into each other very well. So this is a lot of tracks on it. It was, slow jams which is Twister's song, but gets kind of repurposed on here, which puts a bit more focus on Jamie Foxx's vocals, and again helps the album out a lot throughout that middle section, to stop it from dipping. The kind of rock influenced two words with Mos Def and Freeway, Family Business towards the end. Through the Wire was one of the major singles off of the album. Then with Last Call, the final track, which has a nice sort of ride out, an extended ride out, kind of like discussing how Kanye got to the place that he's at, detailing, getting signed to Rockefeller Records, the managing the rappers he was doing, the producing he was doing before getting on there, which while it's quite a lengthy discussion, it's very interesting to listen to, a good way of ending off the debut album, the debut for Rockefeller. So the skits don't always necessarily. They're fine for what they are. They don't take away too much from the album. They maybe don't necessarily help the album along too much, but they're fine for what they are. It's very one of those weird situations where after School Spirit, I believe there's two skits right next to each other, which feels a little bit strange, but again, it doesn't take away too much from the album. All the songs, work really well. Just classic Kanye West, and it's really just good to hear throughout when Kanye's still again trying to find himself as a rapper, but does have a lot of very very good lines and rhyme schemes throughout. So was pretty strong as a rapper at that time. The argument that Kanye gets better as a rapper later on in his discography, I don't really understand at all. I mean, the first few albums are where his strongest rapping is. Anything after the first three doesn't really pass it for me. But that's another argument for another video, perhaps. Yeah. Number 3, College Dropout. Number 2, Graduation. So, a very anthemic album. At this time, Kanye was really trying to take kind of stadium rock styles of U2 and those kind of artists, and equate it to a hip hop album, which for the most part works well. It makes the songs very strong and anthemic in different parts. Was it famously released in 2007, the same week as 50 Cent, and ended up selling more than 50 Cent. I suppose in a way of like proving that this style of rap was now going to take over from the predominant gangster rap of that time. And again, for better or for worse, Kanye has been very influential on the rap game since then. And for this album, certainly I can see why, because again it's very sonically strong throughout. The lyrics are perhaps starting to take a bit of a turn here, but when he's got some really strong braggadocio lines with Barry Bonds, with Lil Wayne. The really strong anthemic, The Glory, which comes towards the end, which is a really, really strong track. Um, Stronger, some of the lyrics maybe don't necessarily work with the context of the song, but it's such a booming, powerful track. Um, with some help from Timbaland with the drum programming to make the drums smack even harder, um, and the Daft Punk sample, just all builds together just to make such a strong lead single. Um, the outro, which kind of rides out a little bit and takes the beat in and out a little bit in parts of it. Really really strong. Really works well. Um, the great intro for the album with Good Morning, which features Jay-Z a little bit towards the end, delivering some lines. Playing again off the education theme that has been portraying throughout the first trilogy. The uplifting champion, which follows this. I Wonder is really strong, introspective track. Good Life with T Pain, maybe not one of the strongest songs, but it makes for a good single. Good fun for it. Can't Tell Me Nothing makes for a good street track, and again nice braggadocio track. Even again, it's not necessarily a strong song in itself. I can see why the chorus is strong to it. The more subtle street kind of feel for it as a street single works well. I don't think anyone would have missed Drunken Hot Girls if it hadn't made the album. That is a bit of a weird inclusion to the album. I don't feel as though Flashing Lights necessarily worked either. Well, I guess it's nice to see Kanye going for the kind of more electronic style, and there's some nice exploration of his treatment from the media. The song as a whole, I don't necessarily feel works that well, but it's a fine song, I suppose, for what it is. Everything I Am, which features DJ Premier, scratches, and has a lot more of a callback to the more soulful songs. So really helps pick the album up again. Just before we get to The Glory, which again, like I said earlier, very very strong song. Homecoming with Chris Martin is a nice dedication to his hometown of Chicago. Chris Martin adds some nice piano and chorus to the song. The Big Brother track discussing his relationship with Jay-Z, as seeing him as as a mentor and being signed to his company. I got this being the closer of the album as well, kind of works well. This version of the album has Good Night with I'll Be Sure and Most Def. No, not I'll Be Back. I'll Be Black. Which it's fine for an extra track, but doesn't necessarily add to the album too much. But yeah, just overall, just like the everything just sounds the music just sounds so crisp throughout the album that you can picture it just being played at stadiums and just like having that really strong feel for big arenas and yeah, just yes, a really cohesive album overall. I feel, and just a very strong project. But we then go to number one, late registration, and it was very tough because I kind of feel that there's a lot of similarities with um, graduation on this album, just in terms of the sonic nature of it. It's overall kind of aesthetic, not being quite stadium rock, but certainly having quite a big orchestral feel to it, which makes it that bit more grandiose than the College Dropout. Helps a lot by the co-production from John Bryan throughout the album, um, which helps make it feel more cinematic. Um, it's kind of the bridge. It just helps the trilogy, the opening trilogy, somewhat of it's like a bit of a bridge between the College Dropout and Graduation, in the sense of still maintain a lot of the soulful nature of College Dropout, and bringing in some of the more um, epic feeling of Graduation. So in that sense, of kind of like blending those two kind of aesthetics together is probably what takes this album to number one for me. Um, and yeah, again, it's quite a long project to get through. Um, Skits throughout to kind of help break the album up. The Broke by Broke, College Dorm, um, which which are amusing enough to help keep the album going. Um, but yeah, just really strong tracks throughout. The first half of the album in particular, really strong. The uh, the opening song after the intro, "Heard 'Em Say" with Adam Levine. Um, there's a very well produced, just thoughtful track. The Just Blaze produced "Touch the Sky" featuring Lupe Fiasco, sampling Curtis Mayfield. A really strong, soulful, uplifting track. Gold Digger with Jamie Foxx is a great collaboration between the two of them. Then we get into the real, I think the really like strong set of tracks run into each other with Drive Slow, featuring Paul Wall and GLC, My Way Home featuring, which is basically a common track. Kanye doesn't actually feature on the song. Crack Music featuring The Game on the chorus. Then into Roses, a very emotional track about losing a family member. Just all just these four tracks in particular, I feel running into each other. Just a really strong set of tracks together, and I think that's really what kind of tips the album above the others. Then even into Bring Me Down with Brandy. Kanye only has a short version. It's a fairly short and uh, kind of uh, subtle but cinematic track. Still really really strong. Um, Addiction kind of says it all really. Then Diamonds from Sierra Leone. We do also get the original version of the track on here. This is the remix version with Jay-Z. Both versions of the song are really, really strong with the classic Shirley Bassey sample. The original being more of a braggadocious song with the remix Kanye exploring the conflict diamond crisis of Sierra Leone, which helps with the title. Jay Z's verse is more of a business brag verse, but it still works on the song. Um, Following this, we get We Major featuring Rido and Nas. Just around the time that the feud between Nas and Jay Z was about to officially end. So having these two tracks, these two quite epic tracks with such big star power names, with their history together, was quite quite a monumental moment, and particularly with it being like around about the halfway mark of the album, or certainly just after the halfway. Really makes for a very strong centerpiece to the album. Hey Mama, a dedication to his mother whilst she was alive. Obviously, felt a bit more reminiscent after resonant after she passed away. But still a very strong, meaningful track. And going to Celebration, Gone, which is the official closing track, with verses from Cameron and Consequence. A nice long outro track as a way of just like really ending the album off strong. Like I say, for bonus tracks, on this version of the album, we get the original Diamonds for Sierra Leone, Late, and We Can Make It Better, featuring Talib Kweli, Q-Tip, Common, and Rhymefest all together. So really like a big who's who of what was like the conscious rap scene of that time. All of them have very strong verses, even though they're fairly short verses. Stays with the traditional soulful sound of Kanye at that time. Really good track. Is I can kind of understand how maybe aesthetically it didn't work with the rest of the album, but I'm glad that it's on it's on the album anyway, because it's a really really strong song, and one of my sort of favorite Kanye collaboration tracks. Yeah, I mean, what else to say about this? It's just a really really strong, meaningful album throughout. Yeah, I think the first four albums, are particularly strong. I feel in Kanye's catalog, but with this, with Late Registration, I think it just kind of really encapsulates all the strengths of Kanye to make an overall strong, cohesive project. Again, shout out to John Bryan for helping keep a lot of these tracks together and make them all work together and sounds strong together with the orchestral work and everything. Yeah, yeah, just a really incredible album. So that's why I want to put it at number one. Um, yeah, but to go on a bit longer than I had intended to for these projects. But yeah, when you actually go over particularly the older Kanye stuff, you remember just how great he was at one time, and how it's a shame that his recent actions have kind of detracted a lot from people's perception of him, which a lot of it does kind of bring on himself. Um, but still, that first half of the discography in particular really stands up as just some of the strongest albums ever made in hip hop. And I don't imagine we're going to get anything quite that strong again from Kanye. I imagine there's going to be more albums that come from him. Um, but yeah, there's definitely that early pinnacle. I don't think is going to get touched again by him. And while it may be interesting to see what he does explore in any further rounds, it does kind of feel like now it's just making things for the sake of making things with not much purpose. So yeah, just, if you go explore the early parts of Kanye's discography if you can, because that's certainly where you're going to find the strongest material. So take care, and I'll see you again soon.